fence was breached about 20 minutes ago. People were just milling around, the protesters in that area. Now they're opening the, we're pulling us through. All right. The pinch point has been broken. They have opened an entrance on the north side of the fence, and they're throwing people through and trying to get them away from the scrum that's occurring on Washington Boulevard right now between the police and the protesters. Although I have to say, as I look around right now, all appears to be, I don't see any active fights. I don't see anybody on the ground. I just see a lot of police officers. I see some protesters back there. I think some of the protesters have actually exited the area, so it's unclear whether they're going to be taken into custody. There's a guy standing on the fence or along the fence, attempting to climb it. Police just instructed him to come down and walk through the new open area that's been created to allow this crowd to exit between the two barricades on the north and south sides of the street. You hear some of the protesters who are yelling at the police, shouting, "The whole world is watching."
Yeah, guys, back out here live from our vantage point, we've seen at least 3 people be detained and appeared arrested by police. You see police struggling with one guy right now who continues to resist. There are 5 or 6 different officers trying to get him to comply with their request, which is to vacate this area, as Dane Placco just explained. In the last 2 to 3 minutes or so, that's when Chicago police rushed to the scene to evacuate everyone from the secured area. There were a number of reporters, cameramen out here, but as well as demonstrators. Many of the demonstrators, I'd say between 300 to 400 that had jumped this perimeter fencing. Right now we see police continuing to talk to a guy that they've detained. He appeared to have been holding some type of stuffed animal that Chicago police have in their hand right now. As these 3 people were being taken away by Chicago police, we saw a number of demonstrators knocking on the fencing, banging on the fencing, celebrating that these folks had been arrested. Again, we spoke to the organizers of these demonstrations earlier today, and they said, we intended on this being a peaceful protest. One of the fears here that is now a reality is the folks, the groups that have shown up without permit, but they've shown up, they've arrived to cause chaos, to cause disruption. You can see Chicago police right now, 8 or 9 of them, continuing to try to, I don't know, possibly negotiate with this guy, but he is restraining. Again, they're breaking down more fencing. They're breaking down fencing as we speak. As we speak, a guy with a hat on and some type of blanket wrapped around him. He just broke a fence, has on a mask. Police are trying to stop him. They are trying to rush these folks. We are watching the scene. Chicago police are walking up. They're moving in as we speak. They're moving in with helmets, with batons in their hand. Chicago police right now trying to replace this fencing, which has been torn down. Again, guys, I want to remind our viewing audience, Dane Placco and I, as well as Joni Lum, we've been out here for several hours since early this morning. We did not see this level of unrest. We did not see this level of violence or even chaos. We are now starting to see this. The area that we're speaking of, again, for those that are just now joining us, is Park 567, which is located right outside of the Pilgrim Rest Missionary Baptist Church on the city's west side. You see officers right now trying to reattach this fence, but this group appears to be very uncompliant, if you will. We still see Chicago police that have detained 2 or 3 demonstrators, as there are hundreds of journalists capturing this moment right now. There still are, I'd say, about maybe 500 to 600 demonstrators that are inside of the park right now. Keep in mind, this protest and march that initiated from Union Park, there were thousands. And so the guidance that we heard within the last hours that everyone was going to march back to Union Park, and then that's when we started seeing the fencing come down. But Chicago police, the brave men and women of the Chicago Police Department, doing what they do best to patrol this crowd, to get everything under control. We're now seeing Superintendent Larry Snelling and his command staff. Superintendent Snelling here on the scene, talking to his officers, talking to his command staff. We do hear agitators screaming in the background saying, "Why are you arresting him? Why are you holding him?" Police is trying to haul this group away. It appears, though, that they have cleared the scene. They've replaced the perimeter. We are seeing now officers stand shoulder to shoulder with helmets on, ready to address any folks that come that are not trying to do what the Secret Service and Chicago police have said.
And now they're beginning to move back east on Washington. I think most of the protesters that breached the fence have either been arrested. I didn't see many arrests going on, or just pushed back out into the park 578, that's directly north of where this breach occurred, right across from a church, the Pilgrim Rest Missionary Baptist Church on the other side of the street. Perhaps you can see it back there now. Things have definitely calmed down a great deal. I'm going to ask Ed, my photographer. He was on the front line when the police marched up on the protesters, and the protesters were marching towards the police. Ed, what was happening right there?
Well, when they made their decision to begin their move, they just pushed their way through, saying get out, but there was no way to get out because all the barricades were cement blocks. So as we were trying to get out, they would push us, elbow us, and we were just trying to hop over the cement median, and there was nowhere to go. So they were trying to push us out to nowhere to go.
Was it the police officers?
It was officers, yeah. Okay. They were touching the equipment. They were pushing my body with their arms, and
they were shoving protesters as well.
Yeah,
I could see with their nightsticks,
yeah.
They were kind of holding them crossways across their chest, right, and shoving them backwards.
And eventually, when they got to the protesters, they pushed the protesters right into all the photographers. So.
Back there, I see Police Superintendent Larry Snelling now walking, if you can see back there, Ed, right through that open panel. He's walking along the line behind the officers that are now standing on the north side of Washington Boulevard. Their nightsticks in their hands, standing in formation, their legs spread wide, shoulder to shoulder, creating a police human barricade, if you will, on the other side of this fence. Because they still have at least four of the wrought iron panels that are missing from the fence. And if people wanted to try to push their way through again, they could, but they would encounter the police immediately. Again, these police rolled up about 15 minutes ago. The breach occurred about a half hour ago. And initially, the police were allowing the protesters to just stand on Washington Boulevard in formation and slowing down, and then taking instructions from their commanding officer before engaging with the crowd. The big problem in getting everybody out of here, guys, is that there was the concrete barricades you see down there, and with the metal panels, even with ones that were open, there was no way to get through that area. There was also a lot of protesters standing on the other side of the fence who were blocking any egress from the area. We had police administration, police spokespeople shouting at us, telling us to remove from the area. and we did as best we could, but we were blocked from exiting the area temporarily by all the protesters on the other side, some of whom were throwing objects, and we saw some cans, and no bottles, but cans and signs being thrown. So, but they evidently came across the park, and then some people began pulling out some of those fence panels. I hear that people had hammers or had some equipment in bags that they were carrying with them, and may have used that to dislodge some of the metal gratework here. But again, all the people are back in the park. The police are standing at attention, and Superintendent Snelling is walking back and forth, surveying the situation. All the protesters appear to have been removed from the breach area now. They're walking back in towards the park, and we don't know whether there are any arrests made. We do know I saw a couple of protesters on the ground being held by police, but I didn't see any wagons show up or anybody physically removed from the site.